What's more dangerous to a giant, another giant, or a ghost that moves faster than anyone notices? That's the paradox DeepSeek V3.1 just forced the entire AI industry to confront. No countdown, no press leaks, no shiny keynote, just a file quietly dropped on Hugging Face, and within hours, whispers turned into thunder. Did this open source model just embarrass GPT-5? The raw specs looked almost unreal. 685 billion parameters, a 128,000 token context window, benchmarks that push Claude Opus 4 off the throne. And the real gut punch? Cost. That same enterprise-level coding job that drains $70 on a premium closed system suddenly cost about... That's not a discount. That's a wrecking ball through traditional pricing models. Imagine you're running a startup where thousands of these tasks fire off daily. Yesterday, that meant a bleeding budget. Today, with DeepSeek, it's spare change. Overnight, entire financial forecasts became obsolete. And here's the kicker, DeepSeek didn't brag. No stage demo, no marketing blitz, just a model tossed into the wild. While OpenAI and Anthropic wrapped their systems in velvet ropes and premium APIs, DeepSeek's message was almost mocking in its simplicity. Take it, use it, it's yours. Developers didn't hesitate. They dumped enormous text into it, the kind that usually send models wheezing into timeouts. Instead, V3.1 tore through them. Fast, sharp, relentless. Forum chatter lit up with phrases like, "Something's different here. It's not just bigger, it's tuned." Which raises a chilling question. If this is just V3.1, what storm is waiting with V4? Section 2, numbers don't lie. The shock wasn't hype-driven, it was mathematical. A 71.6% score on the Adder programming benchmark, a result that spread across X, Reddit, and Discord like wildfire. Claude Opus 4 had been the benchmark king, comfortably ahead of challengers. Then V3.1 arrived and nudged past it. But the story wasn't just academic points, it was dollars and cents. A developer who once budgeted $70 per complex coding request suddenly saw that same task fall to a single buck. Multiply that across thousands of daily runs, and you're not just trimming expenses, you're rewriting company survival strategies. And let's not ignore scale. With 685 billion parameters, this model isn't just flexing. Pair that with a 128K token context. In Chinese characters, that's roughly equivalent to processing 1/16 of a Dream of Red Mansions, a literary behemoth. Users hurled absurdly massive documents at it, and while it realistically handled about a tenth of those volumes, the accuracy and speed startled everyone. Speed, in fact, was a headline on its own. Historically, heavy reasoning meant waiting, long, painful pauses, as models churned through logic. V3.1 shattered that assumption. Responses came almost instantly. It wasn't lumbering, it was alive. So the numbers told a story bigger than benchmarks. They whispered a threat. Performance that was once locked behind corporate paywalls was now spilling into the open, free and unchained. Section 3, the hybrid twist. People assumed V3.1 was just another scaled-up monster, flexing raw size. But under the hood, the architecture told a different story. DeepSeek called it a hybrid design, and unlike failed hybrids before it, this one actually worked. Earlier attempts at hybrid AI tried to juggle reasoning, chatting, and coding in one brain. The result? Mediocre performance across the board. V3.1 flipped the formula. It didn't just coexist across modes, it fused them. No more separate R1 reasoning model. No confusing product lines. Everything collapsed into a single flagship, V3.1. And the discoveries didn't stop there. Researchers digging into the weights stumbled on 4 hidden tokens. Search begin, search end, think and end. Think. Translation. This system can reason privately before answering, and when connected, even fetch live data from the web. Let that sink in. Not only does it reason internally, invisible to the user, but it also carries the potential for real-time search. That's something closed systems have teased for years. But here it is, sitting inside an open-source model, free to use. Community testers were stunned. It feels like the model is thinking behind the curtain, one researcher wrote. Benchmarks confirmed it. On SVG Bench, visual and structural reasoning, V3.1 ranked just behind GPT 4.1 Mini, a staggering leap beyond DeepSeek's earlier efforts. On MMLU, the global standard for broad knowledge, it held its own against GPT-5. Yes, GPT-5 still edges it out on graduate-level problem-solving and elite programming. But for the first time, an open-source system came within striking distance of a frontier closed model. And if V3.1 is already this close, what's to stop V4 from catching up completely? Section 4, timing the strike. The timing wasn't luck, it was surgical. OpenAI had just unveiled GPT-5. Anthropic had just dropped Claude 4, both surrounded by fanfare. carefully branded as frontier systems, both locked behind APIs, priced like fine wine. DeepSeek, they chose that exact moment to quietly upload V3.1. Free, public, no velvet ropes. It was like crashing an exclusive gala by tossing free champagne into the street outside. The signal was unmistakable. While American firms guard their most advanced models like crown jewels, DeepSeek treated theirs like public infrastructure. And this wasn't random, it tied directly into China's broader national strategy. Back in 2020, their 14th five-year plan explicitly emphasized open-source AI as a weapon for global adoption. Profit today mattered less than influence tomorrow, and it's working. Within hours of release, Hugging Face's trending charts lit up. V3.1 shot into the global top 5. Developers poured in. Even Hugging Face's head of product tweeted that open-source AI was peaking, pointing directly to models like DeepSeek. Reddit threads exploded with speculation. The think button's gone. Outputs are longer, sharper. Benchmarks are beyond what anyone expected. By the time DeepSeek even published the model card, the system had already become a global conversation. So was this just a model drop, or was it a calculated geopolitical chess move disguised as a GitHub upload? Section 5, history repeats. This wasn't DeepSeek's first earthquake. Back in January, their original V3 stunned the industry with a claim few believed: training costs of just $5.6 million, using roughly 2,000 slower NVIDIA chips. Conventional wisdom said frontier training required hundreds of millions. But DeepSeek proved otherwise, and the shockwave was massive. NVIDIA's market cap dropped by $600 billion in a single day. Governments panicked, rushing to ban the chatbot version of DeepSeek over fears of Chinese servers hoarding user data. With V3.1, though, the game changed. This isn't just a chatbot, it's an open model, not tethered to one company, not locked to one country. It's global, and the economics, brutal. Closed AI firms depend on recouping massive infrastructure and R&D investments through high API fees. DeepSeek flipped the script by giving away cutting-edge capabilities, forcing rivals into an awkward question: how do you justify charging premium rates when the free version is nearly as good? The comparison isn't new, it's Linux all over again. When open-source software became good enough, the closed, expensive options had to pivot or perish. DeepSeek just brought that same open-source disruption to the heart of AI. Section 6, breaking the myth. The sheer scale of the release raises a fair point. The full model is nearly 700 gigabytes. Most people won't run that on a laptop, but cloud providers are already lining up to host it, making access a non-issue, which leaves enterprises staring down a brutal calculation. Why pay premium rates for closed systems when an open one sits right there waiting? DeepSeek's official community is already surging past 80,000 members. Momentum isn't slowing, and something bigger is happening. For years, the narrative was clear. Only massive US labs with billions in funding could build frontier AI. Smaller players were sidelined, but V3.1 shattered that myth. Suddenly, smaller teams, smaller nations, even independent developers had a weapon that could compete at the highest level. For American firms, exclusivity is evaporating. If open models perform nearly as well at a fraction of the cost, then closed companies must compete on something else: enterprise trust, integrations, maybe brand loyalty. But raw performance? That monopoly is gone. And isn't it ironic? For decades, the artificial part of artificial intelligence wasn't the smarts, it was the scarcity, access locked behind corporate walls and geopolitical barriers. DeepSeek just bulldozed those walls. Section 7, the disruption. So when analysts call V3.1 disruptive, they're not exaggerating. The specs alone: 685B parameters, 128K tokens, benchmark scores punching past Claude Opus 4, and cost 68x cheaper than rivals, would have been enough. But it's the way it happened that changes everything. Quietly, without hype, with a confidence that said, "You'll see for yourself." DeepSeek reset expectations for open-source AI. And the chilling thought? This isn't even the endgame. V3.1 is just a waypoint. The whispers already point toward V4, a release that could erase the final gap between open and closed frontier systems. So the question now isn't whether DeepSeek has disrupted the industry. The question is, how long before the entire industry has to play by DeepSeek's rules? That's the storm gathering on the horizon. And if you thought this release was shocking, the aftershocks haven't even begun. Outro. What do you think? Has DeepSeek truly cornered GPT-5, or is this just a temporary lead in the open source race? Drop your thoughts below. I want to hear them. Make sure you hit subscribe if you haven't already. The AI story is moving faster than ever, and trust me, you don't want to miss what comes next.